Part 46. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 451. Chapter 451 2 Instruments and 8 Sealing Formations. The two of them were also searching in the ruins. Mujukin had extraordinary attainments in formations, so he paid attention to any fluctuations in the formations. However, some formations have no fluctuations at all, such as the concealment formation. If it is the highest level concealment formation, Mahayana monks may not be able to detect it. I'm afraid that Liangbao will fall into a place like this and be unable to get out. The two of them searched for it on the mountain for 2 days, but they found nothing despite digging 3 feet into the ground. The two of them were disappointed. Mujukin, let's go to that mountain and have a look. These mountains are all connected together. They found this place from the top of the mountain, and only the tail of the mountain is left. The tail of the mountain is a cliff, just an ordinary cliff. There were also monks coming down and coming up. Okay, Mujukin didn't have any hope. It didn't hurt to go and have a look anyway. The two of them also flew down the cliff like the monks. There is actually a valley under the cliff. Many monks came down and walked around for a while before flying away. Mujukin felt that this valley was unusual. Although he had no idea what was unusual about it, he just felt it was unusual. Trees in ordinary valleys grow haphazardly, but the trees here seemed to be very regular. He was a mortal general in the secular world, leading troops and fighting in battles. Mortals can also use formations. Those who set up the formation are not necessarily movable things. There are also such things that use fixed things to set up the formation. Mujukin remained calm. He took Yuanfei to the mountain and sat on the edge of the cliff. Looking at the bottom of the valley now, the trees are arranged in a trigram shape. Just because there is no spiritual energy fluctuation, the monks don't care much about it. In the eyes of monks, mortal things will never appear in the world of immortality. Even if they are made by mortals, they can be destroyed by a burst of spiritual power. Mortal things are absolutely vulnerable in the eyes of monks. Mujukin will not underestimate the things of mortals. Below is the 2 ceremony and 8 sealing formation set up by mortals. As long as any one of the trees is moved, it is equivalent to activating the formation, and the Bagua, 2 rituals, of the formation will operate, and the 2 rituals will generate 4 images, and the 4 images will generate the Bagua, and so on. At this time, wherever there was still a simple Lianji Bagua array, countless Lianji Bagua arrays had already been formed. If the 2 treasures come in and have no intention of activating the formation, they are still in the golden elixir stage and have no ability to escape from the formation. It is unknown where they are trapped by the formation or where they are teleported. When it gets dark, they will go down and find out. Mujukin took a deep breath. I don't know which genius formation master came up with this formation. How could any monk think that this is a formation used in the world? Yuan saw that he had been looking at the bottom of the valley, and knew that he must have discovered something, so she did not rush him, and the two of them just sat quietly on the cliff. Some monks came over and just looked at them curiously, and the two of them were nascent soul stage monks. They were nothing outside the Yuanying stage, but they were masters in the secret realm. No one above the nascent soul stage can come to this kind of secret realm, and it would be a waste of time to come. Finally, when it was late in the evening and no one came over, Mujukin picked up Yuan and jumped down to the bottom of the valley, flew towards the center of the Bagua array and stood still. Mujukin glanced at the big tree in front of him. This tree was the only one that grew straight. He said to Yuan, "Waner, hold me tight and don't let go. I want to pull out a tree." Yuan didn't know what he was going to do, so she just cooperated, so she nodded, stretched out her arms and hugged him from behind. Mujukin put his hands on the tree, channeled his spiritual power into his palms, and pulled out the tree with force, and the tree was uprooted. But at this moment, the originally normal valley suddenly flashed with light, one white and one black, and then the ground quickly began to rotate. Wanner, don't move. When Mujukin saw this, he secretly thought that it was indeed the case, so he immediately told Yuan not to move. Let's see where this formation will send them. Yuan is not stupid and will definitely not try to sabotage him. She hugged him tightly. At this time, the formation has been spinning silently, spinning faster and faster, and the scene at the bottom of the valley is no longer the valley seen during the day, but a mist. In the fog, countless whirlpool-like bagua formations are rotating at extremely fast speeds. Rotation speed. The two of them were trapped in the formation without any resistance, and they were already knocked unconscious. Suddenly, the piece of bagua where the two of them were standing suddenly flashed another bright light. A bright light flashed and the two people disappeared. When the two people disappeared, the formation in the valley immediately stopped, and the fog disappeared in the blink of an eye. When everything stopped, the valley was exactly the same as it was during the day. The tree that Lian Mujukin pulled out was still there, just as it was before it was pulled out. The whole process was too fast, less than 10 breaths, as if nothing had happened here at all. Just as the light flashed by, the two of them were sucked away by a strong force, and they fainted completely at that time. When the two of them woke up leisurely, they were in a cave, and there was still the sound of water dripping in the cave. It also dripped on them. Mujukin picked up Yuan as soon as he woke up and checked that there was no injury, and then they took a look at this place. This cave is 6 feet high and 3 feet wide, and looks like a hole dug by humans. The spiritual energy in the cave is very thin, damp, and overgrown with weeds. The place where they were sitting was as if they had suddenly appeared there, and the surrounding weeds had not been touched. Mujukin understood that they were sent here by the Lianji Bagua array, which was like a teleportation array. Of course, they appeared here directly when they appeared. Wanner, just stand still while I burn the weeds in the hole. Yuan nodded. Mujukin summoned the phoenix fire and threw it at the weeds. Suddenly, the cave was filled with fire. In a few breaths, the weeds in the cave were burned away. Moreover, the cave was no longer wet, and the sound of dripping water disappeared. It's also very dry. Mujukin took back the phoenix fire, and the two of them walked towards the other end of the cave. At the end, there is a large stone cave with countless sealed stone chambers. When the two of them saw the stone chamber, they first felt that someone was imprisoned or a treasure was inside. But it is unlikely that the baby will be there, because the aura here is too thin and not suitable for the baby. The baby should be placed in a place with strong spiritual energy to keep it for a long time. Mujukin, let's open a stone chamber and have a look, Yuan said. As soon as she saw the stone chamber, her curiosity was aroused. Mujukin nodded. She asked Yuan to stand behind him. He stood in front of the stone chamber and used his spiritual power to strike out with a palm. Boom! With a loud noise, the stone chamber burst. No, Wanner, retreat quickly. After the stone chamber burst, a swarm of poisonous bees flew out. Mujukin retreated while swiping out the blood-eating demonic insects. Buzz buzz. The poisonous bees as big as a human head screamed happily when they saw the blood-devouring demonic insects. Even Mujukin stopped chasing them and rushed into the group of blood-devouring demonic insects, devouring each other with the blood-devouring demonic insects. Mujukin flew to Yuan's side and immediately raised a defensive shield to wrap the two of them, and Yuan also used her blood-eating monster insect. End of this chapter. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 452. Chapter 452 Zombies. After buzzing for a while, the poisonous bee was defeated and was swallowed clean by the blood-eating demonic insect. The two of them put away the blood-eating demonic insects. Can the stone chamber at the back still be broken open? Mujukin asked with a joking look on his face. No, 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 let's go quickly. Yuan shook her head. The poisonous bee just now was too poisonous. Fortunately, They had blood-eating monster insects, otherwise they would be trapped here and die. Thinking about these cute little blood-eating monsters, they have absolutely nothing to fear, not even demonic energy, evil spirits, or poison. Having this kind of spiritual pet is more practical than owning an artifact. It's a pity that they haven't found anything that can help them survive the thunder disaster. Yuan sighed and followed Mujukan to the stone room to check. It was a 5-foot square stone room, but now it was empty. Let's go, let's see where the exit is. After reading, Mujukan pulled Yuan and left. They turned into a passage full of stone chambers until they reached the end, where there was an open stone chamber. The two of them rushed over. Teleportation array. Mujukan stepped forward and touched the ashes of the spiritual stone on his eyes and said, "Wanur, this is a recently used spiritual stone. Should we send it over to have a look?" Yuan was a little hesitant. What if he could not come back in the past? He was not sure whether it was Liangbao or not. There was no trace at all in this passage. It must have been deliberately erased by the people who took the teleportation array. This is the reason why she hesitated. If it was Liangbao, she would leave clues for them no matter what. But everything has an accident. If the two brothers were hunted down and entered here unintentionally, it would not be difficult to understand that the traces would be erased. Mujukan understood Yuan's worries and said, "We'd better go over and have a look, just in case it's a two-way teleportation array." "Okay, what if it's really a treasure? If you miss it, you'll be in big trouble." Yuan placed the medium-grade spiritual stones in the space on the teleportation array, and sure enough, the teleportation array was activated. The two stood up in a flash, and soon a huge force teleported them away. "Oops, why is this space passage so violently windy?" The two of them were in the passage, and the strong wind blew their skin almost off. They both have gone through physical training and reached the realm of refining. If they had two treasures, they didn't dare to imagine the consequences. They hoped they were wearing high-level robes. Bang bang, just when the two of them couldn't stand it anymore, they finally got out of the formation. The two of them stood up to take a look at where this place was. When their consciousness swept away, they realized that this place was actually a cemetery. At a glance, there were at least tens of thousands of tombs. The two of them wondered how there could be such a huge group of tombs in the spiritual world. Yuan immediately read the words on the tombstone. It was engraved with Wuzhong, a disciple of the Divine Medicine sect, and the date was 9911 in the spiritual world. She looked at the other tombstones, all of which belonged to disciples of the Divine Medicine sect. After the two of them checked it out, they found that there were all tombstones of disciples of the Divine Medicine sect, with different dates. In other words, this is the cemetery of the disciples of the Divine Medicine sect. Not good. Just as the two were about to leave, a heavy fog suddenly appeared in the cemetery, and it was still a red poisonous fog. Yuan took Mujukan into the space. In the space, the two people quickly took the antidote. It took a day for the poison in their bodies to be completely detoxified. It might as well be said that it was completely absorbed by the space. The poison is so overbearing that it cannot be cured by the 5th-level detoxification pill. Fortunately, after the expansion of the space, it can also automatically swallow the demonic energy. Now it can even swallow the poisonous gas. This space is becoming more and more unnatural. But the two of them thought that even the 5th-level poison detoxifying pill could not detoxify such an overbearing poison, so how could the person who was teleported resist it? "Mujukan, you don't have to go out this time. I'll let the little snake take me out to look for it." The little snake is not afraid of poison. It is fast. Their master and servant go out to find it faster than she and Mujukan. Even if she is poisoned again, they will not be poisoned at the same time. They can completely switch. "Okay, Wanur, be careful. If you can't hold it in any longer, I'll do it for you." Mujukan obviously thought so too. "Well, Let's go out without further delay. After saying this, the master and servant left the room. Once out of the space, the little snake opened its big mouth and sucked in the red poisonous mist. Pa! The little snake received a slap. Idiot, quickly put up the defensive shield. Do you want to poison me to death? Yuan slapped the little snake hard. When the idiot came out and saw the poisonous mist, he happily forgot that she was still on its back, and poured a large amount of poison into it. The mist sucked in, not even the defensive shield was able to protect it. The little snake trembled and quickly put up its defensive shield. It didn't even inhale the poison, and led Yuan to search in the cemetery. In a large cemetery, the little snake searched several times but could not find a single living thing. This is a small space, except for the cemetery, there is no formation to leave. At this time, Yuan became nervous. She jumped off the snake's back and walked on foot in the poisonous mist. The poisonous mist was much thinner now. She held an antidote pill in her mouth and could barely resist it for a while. The little snake flew next to her and sucked it in, making the poisonous gas even thinner. Yuan walked by a tombstone and stopped to check if there were any clues. Even if they can't find anyone, they still have to go out. She looked through the tombs in rows and found nothing. Yuan was discouraged. She sat in front of a tombstone and held it up with her hands, thinking that there must be something here that she had not discovered. What is it? Formation. Mechanism, Yuan muttered in her heart. When she thought of mechanism, her mind suddenly started. There was no monk formation in the valley before, so they were also transported here. Already. She stood up and exerted force on her hand. The tombstone and the tomb were shattered by the spiritual power. With a wave of her hand, the crushed stones disappeared, revealing a clean grave pit. As expected, there was no coffin in the pit. It was a square stone pit. Yuan's consciousness swept away and she realized that the bottom of the pit was really hollow. She slashed it with her palm, and a hole was made in the stone pit. Yuan glanced with her consciousness and saw that it was very deep below. She took the little snake and jumped down without hesitation. It took a long time to hit the ground. Underground palace. There are all stone passages and stone chambers below, which are similar to the previous stone chambers. They should be made by the same person. The spiritual energy down here is thin, but it emits poisonous gas, which is the same as the poisonous gas above. Yuan doesn't know who is doing something here, but it must not be something good. The master and the servant found a main passage and looked around while searching. Da-da-da. At this moment, heavy footsteps came from the other end of the passage. There is poisonous gas in the air, which affects the consciousness. It is too far away and Yuan cannot see it, so she can only let the little snake see what it is. Master, it's a zombie. Yuan was a little surprised. Zombie. Little snake nodded. Well, it's a zombie, or a high-level zombie. Let's go, follow the zombies and see where they go. Yuan turned over and sat on the little snake, and the little snake quickly flew over to follow. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 453. Chapter 453 Underground Palace. The stone wall of this underground palace is inlaid with a bowl-sized pearl every 10 feet, and the underground passages are bright everywhere. So the master and the servant can see clearly without having to use their spiritual sense. The group of zombies passed by the end of this passage. The zombies wear black hoods on their heads and move stiffly but not slowly. Judging from their walking, their knee joints can still move, but are stiffer than normal people. The master and the servant quickly caught up. They turned around and saw that at the other end of the passage was a long stone staircase leading to the ground. The zombies were climbing up the ladder. Master and servant simply follow this group of zombies. The zombie climbed to the top, where there was a stone door. The zombie leader pressed a bump next to it, and the stone door opened with a rattle. They went out, and the master and the servant followed them. "Isn't there a cemetery outside?" The zombies walked around the cemetery, came back empty-handed, closed the stone door, and returned along the original path. The master and servant followed behind. Yuan guessed that the owner of this group of zombies must have asked them to go out and see if anyone came in, and if they did, they would carry them in. Yuan has seen that the clothes on these zombies are all robes, and they are of various colors. Presumably these zombies were caught from outside by the zombie refiner. Yuan shivered and prayed in her heart that the two treasures would not be caught. "Little snake, follow closely." The little snake heard the anxiety in Yuan's voice, and it speeded up to keep up. The group of zombies turned around until they turned into a large stone house and stopped moving. From a distance, you can see thick poisonous gas coming out of the hole. Yuan frowned. She couldn't get close to the poison in the big stone house, so she could only let the little snake go and see it alone. She immediately sent the message to the little snake, who nodded, shrank in size, and disappeared after a few Yuan retreated a little and squatted in a corner to wait. After a while, she couldn't stand the poisonous gas and stepped into the space. "Waner, are you poisoned again? Why is the situation outside so serious?" There was no news about Waner after being out for so long. Mujukan was so anxious that he kept guarding in front of the wooden house. When he saw her coming in, he immediately fed her the detoxification pill was there to help her detoxify. Yuan detoxified herself and talked about the external affairs in a concise manner. Mujukan's heart grew heavier as he listened. He was worried about the same thing as Yuan. If the two treasures were caught after such a long time, the consequences would be disastrous and not something they both could bear. Mujukan clenched his fists tightly, hoping that the little snake would come back with some information. "Waner, I'm going out this time." "No, you are in space. What if something happens to you outside and I fail to bring you into space in time?" "Yeah, what should we do?" Mujukan felt a sense of powerlessness in his heart at this time. His cultivation was still too weak. Yuan smoothed his eyebrows, squeezed his hand and encouraged him, "Go to retreat and strive for a breakthrough in becoming a god." Okay, he could do nothing but achieve a breakthrough in cultivation. Yuan kissed him on the lips and immediately left the room. The little snake outside has not come back yet. At this time, the little snake has entered the big stone house. This is a very large stone house. The stone house is nested within the stone house. When the little snake's spiritual sense is detected, there are many people lying in each stone house. Well, he is no longer a human being. The team of zombies just now were standing in front of a stone house. The little snake saw a large cauldron in the stone house. In front of the cauldron, a man in black robes was casting spells on the cauldron. After a while, a wisp of green flame popped out from the hand of the man in black robe, and burned in the furnace with a bang sound. The little snake didn't know what he was refining, and he wanted to go back and tell his master quickly. When it regained its consciousness, it glanced at the pool in the middle of the stone house. It took a curious look. The pool was full of monks. The poisonous water in the pond made the little snake greedy, and it flew into the pond with a whoosh sound. It opened its mouth and took a breath. "Ah, delicious," the little snake sighed with satisfaction. "Huh, some of these people are still breathing." The little snake met the person next to it and found that the person was still hanging on. The little snake quickly searched the pool. It knew that the master was here to find the two little masters. There was no one in the stone house just now, so would it be soaking here? The pool is quite big and there are too many people. How long will it take to find it if we are searching one by one? The little snake had an idea, and with a flash of consciousness, it took all the people in the pool into the space inside its body, then opened its big mouth and sucked the venom in the pool into its belly. Whoo! Suddenly there was a violent roar, and the man in black robe jumped out of the stone house. Run! As soon as the little snake saw him, he ran away quickly. As soon as the man in black robe saw it, he waved his hand and grabbed it. The little snake flew far away, and suddenly a suction force sucked it towards the big one. The little snake used all its spiritual power, struggled hard, broke free from the restraints, and flew towards Yuan with all its strength. The man in black robe chased him out with a flash of consciousness. "Master, hurry up," the little snake shouted as soon as he saw Yuan. Yuan also saw the man in black robe chasing him out. The man in black robe was so fast that he was in front of them in the blink of an eye. With a flick of his consciousness, he created a barrier to trap the master and servant. The little snake quickly wrapped around Yuan's wrist. The moment the little snake wrapped around her, Yuan ducked into the space. The man in black robe watched helplessly as the master and servant disappeared, and his consciousness searched everywhere. Why is he not afraid of his poison when a monk comes here? He wanted to capture the person and keep her to help him find the source of the poison. Zombies are not afraid of poison, but they have little consciousness. He only leaves a trace of consciousness for them to obey his instructions. Let the zombies find the source of poison or the source of poison. How can a monk who is not afraid of poison be better? As long as he controls her, he is still afraid that she will not do anything for him. Hateful, this snake escaped under his nose. The man in black robe returned to the stone house after searching to no avail. When he went to the pool, he saw that there was nothing in it. He was so angry that he crushed several zombies to death on the spot. He immediately sent out a large number of zombies to find the man and the snake. He himself also flew out of the underground palace and flew to the ground to search. After searching for no one, he hurried back to the stone house. He was afraid that one person and one snake would try to lure the tiger away from the mountain. Except for the teleportation array in his stone house, there was no way out of this space. Let's say that after the master and servant entered the space, the little snake told Yuan everything he saw. Yuan was stunned. Sure enough, that man is refining zombies. Why is this man so perverted? Why is he refining people into zombies? Oh, little snake, let those people out quickly and see if there are Dabeo and Erbeo. Yuan patted her head. She almost forgot the most important thing. The little snake's consciousness moved and he put the person on the ground. At a glance, there were 500 to 600 people. Look for it quickly. Yuan called out Mujukan to help find them. These people were all soaked in potion and had no original aura on their bodies. They could only search one by one. The two of them browsed through it quickly, hoping that the two treasures were here but also hoping that they were not here. End of this chapter. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 454. Chapter 454. The man in black robe died. Soon, hundreds of people were searched, but no one was found. Yuan's beating heart calmed down at this moment, but it made her even more worried. She didn't know where the two guys had gone. Mujukan threw the corpses into the black earth and put the still breathing ones on the black earth. He fed the detoxifying pills and arranged the formation before returning to Yuan. He held her in his arms and comforted her softly. Don't worry, Waner. Maybe the suns didn't come at all. Don't you feel it? We don't have that bad feeling. Yuan raised her head and looked at Mujukan, her eyes brightening. Yes, they have a blood connection with Liangbao. If something happens to them, they will definitely sense it. This kind of induction is not limited to any region or time, and they really don't have those bad feelings. Mujukin saw that she was in a much better mood, and the two of them just sat there, discussing what to do next. The man in black robe was so strong. You can't fight head-on, they can't afford it. On the other side, Liang Bao is receiving the inheritance in a place no one knows. It was in the ruins on this mountain that the two treasures were triggered for some unknown reason. The two of them were transported to a stone room at the same time to undergo the test. Dabao has sword skills given to him by his mother. Besides alchemy, he loves sword skills. Thinking that Xiaobao will definitely choose sword skills, this sect is called Shinyao sect, and their alchemy skills are their strength. Neither he nor his mother had systematically studied alchemy, so he chose to make alchemy without hesitation, and after passing 5 levels and killing 6 generals, he finally received the inheritance. At this time, Dabao was accepting the alchemy inheritance from the divine medicine sect. Erbao thought the same as Dabao. He really accepted the inheritance of swordsmanship. He had a headache just looking at the alchemy, weapon formation, formations, and talismans, so he decisively chose the sword technique. Like Dabao, he passed 5 levels and killed 6 generals, and was finally recognized. At this time, he was receiving a swordsmanship inheritance. After receiving the inheritance, the two treasures were transported out of the secret realm. Only then did they realize that more than a month had passed. When they were about to send a message to their parents, they realized that their parents had entered the secret realm to look for them. Liang Bao quickly replied to the message and returned to the secret realm to look for his parents. Let us say that the result of the discussion between Yu and Wan in the space was that no matter what, they should kill the man in black robe first. Without him, they would have no way to get out. To get rid of this person, they are no match based on their strength, and they have to rely on small snakes and blood-eating demonic insects. The two handed all the blood-eating demonic insects to the little snake. Yuan patted the little snake and said, "It's up to you. Pay attention to safety. Don't fight with that person. If you can't win, just run away." The little snake nodded. After swallowing the poisonous water in the pool, its strength returned to the peak of the 6th level. There shouldn't be much problem in escaping. Yuan sent the little snake out with a sudden movement of consciousness. As soon as the little snake went out, he was spotted by the man in black robe. He roared and chased after the little snake. The little snake released all the blood-devouring demonic insects while running away. The man in black robe saw the red clouds and saw that they were good things. He waved his big hand and collected the blood-devouring demonic insects in his palm, and used his spiritual power to imprison the blood-devouring demonic insects. Look carefully at what it is. He blood-devouring demonic insect, it's a joke to think that this can hurt me. The man in black robe smiled contemptuously, and put the blood-devouring demonic insect in a spirit beast bag. The little snake was dumbfounded when he saw that all the blood-eating demonic insects had been wiped out. The master still relies on them, but now it's all over. The little snake ran away quickly, and the man in black robe would definitely take care of it next. But the little snake ran away for a while and saw that the man in black robe was not chasing him. It stopped and found a place to hide. Looking back, it didn't have the courage, so it was better to stay as far away from the man in black robe as possible. The man in black robe collected the blood-eating monster insects and really wanted to take care of the little snake, but as soon as he activated his spiritual power, a bone-gnawing pain came through his body. He immediately sat cross-legged on the ground and looked inside. What he saw was incredible. Dozens of blood-eating monster insects clung to his bones and devoured his flesh and blood. There are many more that are trying their best to drill into his body. These 2,000 or so were Yuan's highest-level blood-devouring demonic insects that were about to break through. They were released by the little snake and spread out to stick to the ground waiting for attack, instead of running in a swarm to attack Heilongjiang like other blood-devouring demonic insects. Robe Man. The man in black robe caught the other blood-devouring demonic insects but did not catch them. They took advantage of the man in black robe to collect the demonic blood-devouring insects and flew towards the man in black robe. Their bodies are so small that it is normal for them to be ignored. It is also the people in black robes who are arrogant and pretentious. At this time, no matter how high the cultivation level of the man in black robe was, he was still panicking. It was not easy to get rid of the blood-devouring demonic insects. His spiritual power shook all the other blood-devouring demonic insects that had entered his body and turned them into ashes. He then used the poisonous elixir fire he had cultivated to start burning the blood-eating demonic insects on the bones. The blood-eating demonic insects sensed danger and swarmed around his body to prevent him from being burned. One of them actually took the opportunity to escape into the sea of consciousness, while the others fled towards the internal organs, taking a bite while escaping. The man in black robe was so painful that he screamed. His cry was heard by the little snake. The little snake flew over to take a look and saw the man in black robe sitting on the ground screaming in pain. The little snake thought for a moment. Could it be that a blood-eating demonic insect had entered his body? While you are sick and may kill you, the little snake is full of venom, whizzes a few times, and rushes towards the man in black robe at a very fast speed. The man in black robe was trying to control the blood-eating monster insect, but he didn't expect the snake's venom to spray at him. He is not afraid of venom. He has already made a poisonous body that is invulnerable to all poisons. The man in black robe ignored the little snake and focused solely on burning the blood-eating demonic insects. Poison like raindrops sprayed towards the man in black robe, spraying all over his face and body. Institutions. The venom came into contact with the black-robed man's clothes and face, and immediately corroded him. Ah! The man in black robe covered his face and screamed. He overestimated himself and underestimated the little snake. How could a monk resist the poison of the ancient flying snake? That is an ancient poison. The more the little snake recovers its strength, the more poisonous the poison becomes. The poison of the little snake quickly engulfed the man in black robe. The little snake did not stop and expanded its body at an extremely fast speed. It opened its mouth and swallowed the man in black robe with one breath. After swallowing it, it quickly found the place where Yuan let it out. Yuan saw the little snake coming in the space, and she immediately took it into the space. Master, the man in black robe was swallowed by me, but there are blood-eating demonic insects in his body. What should I do? The little snake said to Yuan as soon as he entered. Since their contract, this was the first time that Yuan heard the little snake say that it eats people. She didn't think anything was wrong. Some people deserve to be swallowed. Spit the person out, he won't be able to escape. The little snake is a little reluctant to part with it, the poisonous taste is good. Don't worry, I'll let the blood-eating demonic insects come out later and feed them to you. Okay, the little snake was still reluctant to spit out the man in black robe. The man in black robe was now an unrecognizable thing, which was disgusting to look at. Yuan quickly let out the dozens of blood-eating monster insects, and the little snake quickly swallowed them back, and also threw out a spirit beast bag, a storage ring, and several storage bags. End of this chapter. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 455. Chapter 455 found. The two quickly checked the storage bags and storage rings. When she saw the corpses in the storage bag, Yuan threw them directly into the black earth. If these corpses were taken out and buried, they would also pollute the land. The corpses were full of poison. The spirit beast bag was full of blood-eating demonic insects, and Yuan let them out. It was then that she realized that there were only 55 of the more than 2,000 blood-eating demonic insects left, which made her heart ache again. She finally managed to reach level 4, but she failed so many times. The two of them finally cleaned the ring. It contained various venoms, and Yuan kept them all. There is also a poison book with dozens of jade slips about poisons. Countless spiritual stones, countless pill bottles, countless identity tokens, countless spells, magic weapons, spiritual treasures, and countless jade boxes, all of which are filled with elixirs. Another jade box contains countless jade slips. There are also countless vestments for men and women. The two of them were shocked when they saw these things. How many monks had been captured by this man? The storage bag was full of corpses. There was not a single zombie. There must be countless zombies outside. The two of them put their things in the treasure pavilion before they found space. There are still zombies outside and they must be eliminated. The man in black robe has been eliminated, and the zombies will no longer be controlled by others. It is estimated that a zombie war will occur. So the two of them searched separately. Sure enough, in the underground dungeon, countless zombies were biting and devouring each other. The scene was brutal and bloody. The two of them released blood-eating demonic insects to devour the zombies. Mujukan cast a fire tornado, and Yuan threw a thunder attribute talisman. Most of the zombies were wiped out in a short time. Although some zombies are powerful, the two of them used the zombies' nemesis, and they were able to defeat the zombies in a few swipes. Originally, Yuan wanted to keep the powerful zombie, but she thought that zombies feed on flesh and blood. If she couldn't control herself and ran out to harm people in the future, then she would be a sinner. Finally everything was sorted out. The two of them packed up the battlefield and came to the big stone room. Yuan collected the corpses in the small stone houses in the big stone house and threw them into the black earth. He also took away the cauldron of the man in black robe. It was still a spiritual treasure. Even if it was not used, it could be exchanged for spiritual stones in the future. Yuan put the cauldron away, revealing a teleportation array underneath. Mujukan, there is a teleportation array here. Mujukan was looking for the teleportation array everywhere. When he heard Yuan's voice, he quickly flew back and stepped forward to see that it was indeed it. This old guy is so cunning. Mujukan waved his hand to clear away the dust, revealing a clear teleportation array. You are so cunning, who would have thought that the teleportation array is under this cauldron? Whatever, Wan'er, let's go out. There is no Dabeo or the others here, they must be in another place. The secret realm is not simple. Yuan nodded. Anyone who dared to take the name of the divine medicine sect was not from a small sect. She took out the spirit stone, activated the formation, and left the space. In the secret realm, the two treasures were not found after searching for several days. The two planned to search the ruins again. If there was still no one, they would leave the secret realm. When Yu and Wan teleported out, they were accidentally teleported to the ruins. They happened to be seen by the two treasures who came to look for them, and they flew over quickly. Mom, Dad, Liang Bao shouted. Big treasure and two treasures. When the two heard the voice, their consciousness swept away and they were indeed the two treasures who had changed their appearance. Father and mother. Two great treasures. Yuan and the others moved over, each holding a son. Where have you been? Make it easy for parents to find you. Yuan patted Dabeo on the back and asked him, almost making her burst into tears. Mom, let's find a place to talk. Good. A family of 4 flew down the mountain and entered space in a hidden place. In the space, Liang Bao briefly and comprehensively talked about their experiences over the years. Mujukan also talked about what happened when they entered the secret realm. There are still such evil cultivators. The two treasures couldn't stop sighing after hearing this. Fortunately, they hadn't gone there yet, otherwise the consequences would have been unpredictable. Oh, by the way, parents, you should also go and see if you can trigger that inheritance channel. The inheritance of this divine medicine sect comes from ancient times, and the things in that inheritance are indeed much more advanced than those in the current world of immortality, Dabeo suggested. The alchemy skills he inherited have indeed been of great use to him, and he can make a copy of this for his mother in the future. Mother can receive the talisman inheritance, and father can receive the formation or weapon refining inheritance. It's a pity that one person can only accept the inheritance once and can only choose one. Mujukan and Yuan looked at each other, and they were a little moved by Dabao's suggestion. They had never entered the sex system to study, and they had to explore everything on their own. If they can also inherit and have the opportunity to be sent back to the Mu and Yu tribes in the future, why worry about the two tribes not being able to grow stronger? Do you remember the specific location? Mujukan asked. Liangbao nodded, remember. Okay, let's go now. Yuan also agreed. It happened that her talismans needed to be improved. They were all jade slips left by Huang Qiuying. She put them together from the southeast to the northwest. It is not comprehensive, but they are all commonly used in the world of immortality. If you can accept the inheritance, there are one or two particularly powerful ones, and when you fight in the future, you won't be as ineffective as before. The family came out of the space just at night. At night in the secret realm, everything was quiet, and no one could see their fingers, of course without using their consciousness. Only the slight breeze caressed their cheeks. The four of them came to the ruins. Liangbao flew towards the place where they triggered the teleportation channel, and Yu and Wan followed behind. After a long time, the two treasures stopped. Mom and Dad, this is right here, Dabao said, pointing to a piece of ruins. Yuan looked around and saw that this place was no different from other ruins. How to trigger it? Yuan was deep in thought, and she asked Liangbao, did you use anything here at the time? Or were you just walking here? As soon as Liangbao heard it, he immediately recalled it. Oh, Mom and Dad, we were sitting here healing our wounds, Dabao said. Yuan seemed to understand. It was probably because her elixir was of higher quality than ordinary elixirs and the aura radiated out touched her. Does this inheritance still have wisdom? Yuan had no intention of thinking about that. She took out a 5th level elixir from the space and crushed it. The elixir fluttered in the wind. Suddenly, two circles of light suddenly appeared in the ruins, and before Yuan and Mujukan could react, they swept her and Mujukan away. Only two treasures were left stunned in place. It turns out that triggering the inheritance channel requires a medium. How can their mother be so smart? Let's say that when Yuan and Mujukan were thrown into a secret room by the teleportation channel, they were so dizzy that he quickly sat down cross-legged and started to use his skills. After half a stick of incense, the two stood up. This is a large stone room with countless doors in front of him. The doors are marked with alchemy, weapon refining, formations, talismans, and beast control. End of this chapter. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 456. Chapter 456 Inheritance. The two looked at each other for a while. Mujukan asked Yuan, Wan'er, what do you choose? Yuan smiled and said, isn't this divine medicine sect a sect that specializes in alchemy? Why is it so versatile? If Dabao chooses the alchemy inheritance, I will definitely choose the talisman. What about you? Is it the formation or the weapon refining? Mujukan was already confident, and he said, it must be the formation. If there is a complete lightning protection formation, wouldn't the blood-eating monster insect be able to survive the disaster? After saying this, she rubbed Yuan's head, knowing that she was thinking about her blood-eating monster insects. Yuan smiled at Mujukan and said, yeah, let's get started. Our sons are still outside. Good. After saying that, the two of them walked towards the door of their choice. Yuan stood in front of the Fula door. She just clicked lightly, and a ray of light sucked her in. After a moment of dizziness, Yuan stood firm. This was a bright stone house with only a round platform. There is a light curtain on the round platform, which is like an LED display. When it senses someone coming, the light curtain immediately flashes white light, and a mechanical sound sounds, "Welcome to accept the test." After finishing speaking, rows of words appeared on the light screen. The fonts were words from the ancient world of immortality. The content was about the principles of making talismans and the materials for making talismans. Finally, there were all the first-level talismans and the painting methods of each type of talisman. Yuan was slightly surprised after reading it. There were nearly 100 kinds of talismans displayed, and she only knew about 20 kinds of drawings. And the painting methods are slightly different, these are much more complicated. Yuan believes that the drawn talisman must be much more powerful than the current one. She smiled happily and tried to memorize the 100 kinds of talismans and drawing methods. What the light screen shows must not be aimless. There must be a mission coming later, otherwise it would not be called a test. Sure enough, after these disappeared within 10 breaths of time, another row of words appeared on the light screen: "Please draw 3 of the talismans within a quarter of an hour." Then 3 talisman papers, talisman pens, and cinnabar popped out from the light curtain. Yuan immediately picked up the pen, laid out the talisman paper, glued the vermilion on it, and then selected 3 kinds of talismans from the 100. It is basically impossible to draw 3 complicated talismans in a quarter of an hour. It is already good to be able to draw one. This test not only tests the talisman, but also has a time limit. It is estimated that only a few people can get the inheritance. Yuan did not think about it and started writing quickly. This talisman must be successful once, and there is not much talisman paper. This test is not an ordinary harsh one. However, these are not difficult for Yuan. The talismans she draws are already a level more difficult than those currently used in the world of immortality. This one is an improvement on hers. Even so, the first level talisman is still very simple for Yuan. She picked up the pen and started writing with luck. She finished it in one go. In less than 200 breaths, a fire talisman was completed. Then the second picture. The third picture. Yuan looked at the 3 talismans and nodded with satisfaction. They were exactly the same as the ones shown. She placed the 3 talismans flat on the light curtain. At this time, the light curtain flashed with a red light, and like the scanner, the 3 talismans were scanned one by one. At this time, a mechanical voice sounded, "Congratulations on passing." Then the talismans on the light curtain, as well as the talisman pens and cinnabar, were all swept away by the red light. As soon as she was swept away, a white light shone on the round platform and enveloped her. Yuan felt dizzy again. She had reached another stone room. This time there are second-level talismans, and only 3 of them appear. Just like before, you have to draw this talisman within a quarter of an hour. The same thing must be successful in one go. It is still a bit difficult to remember those 3 pictures that I have never seen before in 10 breaths of time. Fortunately, monks basically have a photographic memory. Yuan pondered it in her mind for a while before starting to write. Yuan finished the painting when 1/3 of the time had passed. Then she was teleported to the 3rd-level talisman room. In the 4th-level talisman room. In the 5th-level talisman room. In the 6th-level talisman room, there are still 3 6th-level talismans. The time has become longer, and it has become half an hour. But Yuan is not happy. The higher the level of the talisman, the more difficult it is to draw. Although there is no need to worry about the lack of spiritual power during the painting process, appropriate spiritual power will be poured into the round platform for the tester to use, but there is not enough time. Each time, 3 cards must be passed completely to be considered as passing the test. Otherwise, it will be considered as failure. The round platform will teleport you out. Of course, everything you experienced here will be cleared from your mind. Yuan sighed. Who created this inheritance? It's so deceptive. After Yuan finished reading the 3 talismans, she closed her eyes and studied them carefully, and followed them with her hands to draw in the air. In this way, half of the time passed before Yuan picked up the talisman pen and started drawing. When there were dozens of breaths left, Yuan finally finished the painting. It passed. Yuan watched the light curtain take away the talisman. She patted her chest and took a long breath, sighing that she was lucky. When she was teleported to the 9th level, the time became 2 hours. Yuan was a little dumbfounded, but there was no other way. He had passed the previous ones. If he failed to pass this level, all his previous efforts would be in vain. Fortunately, the talismans that appeared along the way were in line with her spiritual roots, which was more humane. If she has other attributes and has to convert her spiritual power, it will take a lot of time, and she will definitely not be able to complete the task. Yuan breathed a sigh of relief, sat cross-legged on the ground and began to meditate. She originally wanted to enter the space to gain enlightenment, but the person who created the inheritance blocked everything that could be cheated, not even one cheat. It depends entirely on one's own true ability. Yuan had to admire this man. This time it took only an hour to meditate on Yuan, and then she quickly got up and drew the talisman. The first and second pictures were drawn smoothly. When it came to the third picture, there was not much time left. Yuan became a little nervous, and the pen in her hand paused inadvertently. Yuan thought it was going to be over and the talisman was going to be burned, so she was prepared to fail, but the talisman paper she wrote turned out to be fine. Yuan then carefully looked at where she had drawn, and it turned out that she had drawn exactly at a node. It's so dangerous. Yuan took a deep breath and remobilized her spiritual power. No matter if she had enough time, she tried her best. Then the writing moves smoothly, and it's all done in one go. The talisman is complete. Yuan looked at the aura on the talismans and quickly placed the 3 talismans on the light screen. It was just the right time to place them. Red light flashed, the light curtain took away the talismans and tools, and the mechanical sound of the round platform sounded. Congratulations on passing the test, please accept the inheritance. Then a circle of light enveloped Yuan and threw her to sit on the round platform. Yuan burst into laughter. This. Yuan immediately sat cross-legged and closed her eyes. Sure enough, a large amount of information related to talismans was continuously input into her sea of consciousness. A quarter of an hour later, after the transmission was completed, Yuanta threw Yuan to the ground again. At this time, there was a huge purple light on the round platform. Yuan thought it was about to teleport her out, but she did not expect that a large number of talismans, a talisman pen, and a box of cinnabar appeared on the round platform. End of this chapter. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 457. Chapter 457 Prizes. Yuan stepped forward and looked at those things. Aren't these the talismans she drew before? What does it mean? Is it a reward for her? Not only the talisman she drew, but also the talisman pen and the cinnabar, but the cinnabar was full, and the talisman pen seemed to be the one she had used before. Yuan took care of her and put all these things away. That talisman pen is a good thing, at least it is a spiritual treasure level. It just so happens that she lacks a decent talisman pen. That box of cinnabar is not bad either. After the 3rd level, most of the talismans are replaced with monster blood, but it is never as easy to master as cinnabar. Most of the monster blood has very violent spiritual power, and it can't be thickened even after a few brushes are applied. The higher the level of cinnabar, the harder it is to find raw materials to prepare it. This is good. Give her a box, which will be enough for her to use for a long time. As soon as Yuan put away the things on the round platform, a circle of light enveloped her and sent her out. The place they came out of was still where they entered, and Mujukan happened to come out as well. Mom and Dad, the two babies, came forward. "Let's go quickly," Mujukin said, picked up the mother and son and disappeared. They came out during the day, and many people saw them suddenly appear. As expected, many monks caught up with them, but after all, Mujukin was the nascent soul Dzogchen. His spiritual power was doubled, and his speed increased, and he was able to throw them away in a few strokes. Then, finding a secluded place, the family entered the space. In the space, the family celebrated happily. The four of them burned their respective inheritances on the jade slips. Yuan made 2 more copies of each and placed them in the treasure room. "Wan'er, let's retreat in space, just in time to understand," Mujukin said. Yuan nodded. "Of course, we are together as a family, no matter where we are." Liangbao certainly has no objection. Liangbao went to the elixir field to help take care of the elixirs before going back to retreat. Mujukin returned to his training room. Yuan returned to the wooden house. She sat cross-legged, her consciousness sank into the sea of consciousness, and she recalled the inheritance. She looked at the information like a slideshow. She had seen all the first-level talismans, and there were 90 kinds of second-level talismans. There were actually 40 kinds of 9th-level talismans. In the spiritual world, the 9th level is the highest level. Those above are immortal talismans, which can only be obtained by going to the immortal world. Yuan mainly understood all the 5th-level talismans. There are also 70 kinds of 5th-level talismans. There are talismans for each attribute, which is very complete. There were many talismans that I had never heard of. After Yuan understood them, she began to draw them. On the other side, Mujukin finally found a complete lightning protection formation. This was not carved with formation plates, but with formation pillars. A set of formations has dozens or hundreds of formation pillars. The formation pillars are made from black crystal stones, and then the formation patterns are carved on them. After the entire set is carved, they are then placed in places with spiritual energy according to the arrangement of the formations. This means that they can be arranged in the world of immortality, only on the ground. This effect is the same as that of the formation flag, but the material for the formation flag is harder to find than the formation pillars, and it is also easier to draw than the formation flag when depicting the formation. He had previously repaired it based on the remaining formations on the formation flag. The power was not as powerful as the original version, and it was not a simplified version. Mujukin believed that as long as he refined this formation, the blood-eating monsters would be able to survive the tribulation. 1 year has passed in the family retreat, and 1 year has passed outside. The four of them have gained something after coming out of the retreat. Mujukin needs to find black spar, while Yuan needs to go out to find a magical medicine. Making talisman paper requires soaking in a medicine, which is not available in the space. It is recorded in the inheritance that talismans of each attribute can actually be brewed with elixirs of different attributes, and the power of the drawn talisman will be doubled. The talisman papers on the market have no attributes, and the drawn talismans cannot meet the requirements. After the two decided, they immediately left the secret realm and returned to the Xiaoxian city. The two of them searched non-stop for what they needed. The two of them returned to the inn that day. Mujukin patted Yuan and said, "This city doesn't have it. Let's go to the next city. We can also go to the market and ask. There will always be someone who knows where these things are." They have been searching for several days, but they have found nothing. What Yuan needs is called Sky Star Grass. Unlike other elixirs, this elixir has only one attribute. The fire attribute is the fire attribute, and it will not change its attributes. The Sky Star Grass has several characteristics. First, it grows in places with different attributes. It has the same attributes, but 2 attributes will not appear on one elixir at the same time. Second, Sky Star Grass has a softening effect. The third and most important thing is that its properties can be blended into the softened object without dissipating. so it's best to use it to make monster skins. Yuan nodded and said, okay, let's go to other cities tomorrow to see. The main thing is Black Spar. Let's refine the lightning protection array first. If the blood-eating demonic insects do not advance, their bodies will be burst by the spiritual power. Okay, we'll leave tomorrow. The two of them rested for one night and left early the next morning. They searched city after city, but never found it. Mujukan, is the black crystal no longer called by this name now? The two of them still returned empty-handed. Yuan thought of a possibility. That was the ancient name, and the world of immortality does not use formation pillars now. Come to set up the formation, it is possible that the name has been changed. Mujukan thought it was possible and would ask more questions tomorrow. So the two of them took a rest, and the next day they found a weapon-making shop and asked about it. The shopkeeper of the weapon refining shop was a Yuanying monk. Based on Mujukan's description, he found a fist-sized black stone and showed it to the two of them. Look, is it this? Mujukan looked at it once and said with a happy face, fellow Taoist, this is what we are looking for. I wonder what its name is. Do you have any more here, friend Taoist? The shopkeeper shook his head and said, this is called a black meteorite. It is a rare meteorite. It is very rare. This is all I have. This thing requires strange fire to melt, and ordinary elixir fire cannot melt it. Mujukan, no wonder, how do you sell this, fellow Taoist? I want it. The shopkeeper waved his hand, this thing is just a piece of trash. If you like it, fellow Taoist, just take it. That's it. Mujukan was not polite. After putting it away, he took out a jade box from the storage ring and placed it on the counter. Shopkeeper, you have no use for this. Use it for me, and I will exchange it for you. Mujukan pushed the box over. The shopkeeper smiled, nodded, and opened the box. Here, this is Huo Lingsha? Fellow Taoist, this is too valuable. The shopkeeper was surprised, closed the box and returned it. Mujukan and Yuan looked at each other. The shopkeeper's character was not bad. Yuan pushed the box over again and said, shopkeeper, please accept it. If we need anything to refine in the future, we will come to you for help. This black stone has already helped us a lot, so why bother taking it for nothing? End of this chapter. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 458. Chapter 458. The blood-eating monster successfully overcomes the tribulation. The shopkeeper chuckled twice, and he happily accepted the jade box. He is a weapon refiner, so he naturally knows how precious the fire spirit sand is. Not only can breathing soil be extracted from it, but the sand is also a rare fire-based material. With such a small amount of sand, when he improves his cultivation in the future, he will definitely be able to refine a handful of fine spiritual treasures. He said to Yuan, then I would be disrespectful. If you need anything from now on, I will tell you. Okay, let's say goodbye then. Mujukan bowed his hand towards the shopkeeper and led Yuan out of the weapon refining shop. Haha, Waner is still smart. Mujukan scratched Yuan's nose and said happily. With such a big fist, at least 3 formation pillars can be refined. As long as there are such things, they must be available elsewhere. Yuan smiled, this is very likely to be the case. From ancient times to the present, it has been hundreds of millions of years at least. It is normal for people to change their names while shouting. Just like monks, they usually address each other by their Taoist names, sometimes even forgetting their original names. Thinking of the road number, they should choose one. The two of them found another piece in the city, and then they searched in every city. After 5 years, they searched the entire East ruins and finally found hundreds of pieces, which was enough for Mujukan to refine a lightning protection array. Yuan's Tianxinko only found the 5 attributes of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth, and could not find any other variant attributes of ice, thunder, and wind. It is true that there are very few places with these three special attributes, let alone sky star grass. Yuan planned to wait for Mujukan to refine the lightning protection array and let the blood-devouring monster insects advance to the 4th level before looking for the 3 spiritual herbs. On this day, the two of them came to a stone forest and entered a space for retreat. In the space, Mujukan went into seclusion as soon as he entered the space. Over the years, his cultivation has been almost solid, and he can definitely advance to become a god. He wanted to refine the lightning protection array after he advanced to become a god. He might also be able to refine a 6th level lightning protection array, which would allow the blood-devouring monster insects to survive the thunder catastrophe safely. Mujukan went into seclusion, and Yuan planted all the star grass she found. She and Liang Bao took care of elixirs, practiced, drew talismans, and refined elixirs every day. In the past 5 years, she has not only comprehended the talisman inheritance, but also the alchemy inheritance, which has made her alchemy level rise sharply. Every day when she had time, she would study the swordsmanship inheritance that Xiaobao had received. As for Mujukan's formation inheritance, she gave up decisively because it gave her a headache. Both treasures were amazed. My mother's talent for making talismans was so high, why couldn't she use formations? The formation and the talismans are actually connected. Not understand. Even Yuan herself doesn't understand. On this day, after the mother and son took care of the elixir, Xiaobao pulled her over and said, "Mom, we want to go out." Yuan glanced at Dabao, who also nodded, "Mom, our cultivation has grown too fast in these years. It would be good for us to go out and practice. I also have Xiaobao's inheritance of swordsmanship." Yuan looked at the two sons who were mature and stable. They were men and they really shouldn't be allowed to stay in the space for a long time. It was comfortable in the space, but they lacked the passion that men should have. Not to mention that the two brothers are still swordsmen, and swordsmanship means improving and growing in battle. She nodded, "Okay, if necessary, your life should be the first priority when you go out." Liang Bao nodded. They knew that their mother was worried about their safety, but they were monks and could not grow up in such a comfortable environment. After he and his mother hugged each other, Yuan moved them out after they were ready. Since then, she has been alone in the space taking care of the elixirs and practicing. Occasionally she will also brew some spiritual wine. When she is bored, she will also think of her relatives in Qinjiao continent. I wonder how they are doing? 10 years passed in a blink of an eye. On this day, the spiritual energy in the space suddenly exploded. Yuan knew that Mujukan was about to advance. She immediately took him out of the space, then flew away from the range of the thunder tribulation, watching from a distance. Mujukan threw out a spirit-gathering array, scattered the spirit stones, and sat in the middle to start a breakthrough. This breakthrough went smoothly. Although the injury was serious, I still managed to survive. After that, Yuan took him back to the space to consolidate his cultivation. After Mujukan consolidated his cultivation, he worked non-stop to refine the lightning protection array. Sure enough, after reaching the level of spiritual transformation, he was ready to refine a 5th level lightning protection array, but he wanted to refine a 6th level lightning protection array. He was confident of refining it, so he began to understand the 6th level lightning protection array. After 5 years in space, he finally refined a 6th level lightning protection array. As soon as he finished it, Mujukan rushed out of the training room to find Yuan. "Waner, it's done this time, ha ha ha." He happily picked up Yuan and flew in the space. Yuan looked at him happily with a smile, and when he was not prepared, she opened her mouth and kissed his laughing mouth. After a long time, Mujukan carried her and flew to the wooden house, poked her face and said, "Naughty," then he kissed her eyes full of love. The two of them came out of space when they were excited enough, and Mujukan set up the lightning protection array. Wanner, put some spiritual stones here. After finishing the arrangement, Mujukan said. Yuan placed the spirit stone in the spirit gathering array in the lightning protection array. Mujukan, please pay attention, I'm going to release the blood-eating demonic insects. Okay, that's it now. Yuan nodded, and with a movement of consciousness, a blood-eating demonic insect came out. At the same time, Mujukan activated the formation, and the two of them moved out of the range of the thunder tribulation. As soon as they left, the aura of the blood-eating demonic insects was fully activated, the dark clouds in the sky pressed down, and the thunder rumbled non-stop. Mujukan, this lightning disaster seems to be much less powerful than what we had back then. Mujukan hugged her and said, they are indeed much smaller. Maybe it's because heaven thinks they are small. Haha, it's true that an insect with chopsticks as thick as a needle really makes things difficult for this old man. The two of them were talking while looking at the blood-devouring demonic insect in the formation. At this time, the blood-devouring demonic insect was gradually growing in size. When it was as thick as a chopstick, it stopped growing. At this time, the first thunder tribulation had already occurred. Lower. When the thick-mouthed calamity thunder struck down, the lightning protection array blocked all the power, and the blood-devouring monster insect was not struck at all. Only when the ninth calamity thunder fell, a little bit of the power of thunder and lightning hit the blood-devouring monster insect. Just a little bit, the whole body of the blood-devouring demon insect was charred and black, and only one breath was left hanging. Fortunately, heaven also gifted it with some spiritual rain, which helped its body recover a little. Yuan stepped forward to put it into the space, and then removed the second one. It took a month for all the 55 blood-eating demonic insects to survive the thunder tribulation. As soon as the blood-eating demonic insects were crossed, Mujukan closed the lightning protection array and the two of them left. There have been constant thunder and calamities here for a month, and many monks have been attracted to come to check. They saw that it was just a spiritual pet that survived the calamity, not a treasure, so those monks left. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 459. Chapter 459. Now she is worried to death. Dabeo and Xiaobeo are out, the two of them came to an empty space where there was no one, set up the barbecue grill, and started grilling meat. Mujukan asked while grilling. Well, it's been more than 10 years and they are all fine, so don't worry. Then let's go find the sky star grass you need. I'll see where there is such a place in the Linksy realm later, Mujukan said. Well, it's casual. It's not that the spiritual grass is indispensable. If you come across it, buy it. If you don't have it, forget about it. The spiritual grass only increases the power of the talisman, it is not indispensable. Mujukan handed a skewer of roasted meat to Yuan and said, that's okay. We can visit the other 3 states and meet the best. Yuan ate the barbecue and nodded. They were casual cultivators without any sect, and they could go wherever they wanted without any restrictions. After eating and drinking, the two of them entered the space. Of course, they entered the space to see the blood-eating monster insects. The 55 blood-eating demonic insects have now consolidated their cultivation, and they lay motionless in their nests. Yuan stepped forward and poked the flesh-eating blood-eating demonic insects. Their whole bodies were still red, dripping red, and their redness became even more eerie. Their bodies are as thick as chopsticks and as long as silkworms. There are 2 antennae on the round head and 2 black eyes as big as rice grains, which keep turning around. A small mouth that moves from time to time. Are you hungry? Yuan saw them whining like this, so she tried to ask. The blood-devouring demonic insect's intelligence was too low, and they were still at the fourth level and could not communicate spiritually. However, this time the 55 blood-eating demonic insects all nodded, and Yuan was pleasantly surprised. He hurriedly took the zombie corpses that he had collected before and let them devour them. Within a moment, dozens of zombies were swallowed up completely. Oh my god, you guys are so good at eating it. With this way of eating, how can she and Mujukan feed the other 200,000 blood-eating monster insects? This time she was worried to death. Mujukan came over and saw her frowning face and asked her, "What's wrong with Wanur?" "Hey, I'm thinking about what to feed these foodies in the future, they are so delicious." Mujukan couldn't laugh or cry. Just because of this incident, he thought the sky was falling. He comforted him, "What's the problem? There is a swamp nearby. Let's just go for a walk." "Okay, let's take a trip for the sake of these foodies." Yuan got up and took Mujukan out of the space. After leaving the space, Mujukan took her to fly. She didn't need to use any spiritual power. She was only responsible for watching the scenery along the way. The scenery in the world of immortality is very beautiful, and any valley is a paradise. There is no hustle and bustle of the city, no smoky industrial wastewater and gas, everything is so fresh and refined, like a fairyland. Of course, there are also swamps that are very disgraceful. The spiritual energy in the swamps is thin, poisonous gas is everywhere, and poisonous insects, poisonous beasts, and poisonous plants are everywhere. Yuan and the other two took antidote pills and stepped into the swamp. There were quite a lot of monks practicing in the swamp today. They all chose places with fewer people. Places with fewer people have stronger poison gas, but more poisons. As soon as the two of them entered, they threw the blood-eating monster insects into the swamp and let them hunt on their own. The two of them collected some poisonous plants and stored them for the blood-eating demonic insects. The more poisonous it is, the more they like it. On this day, they had entered the center of the swamp, and a dark cave caught their attention. "Mujukan, there must be a big guy in here." There were no traces of monster activity near the cave, so there must be high-level monsters inside. Mujukan probed with his spiritual consciousness and found that the aura of the monster inside was powerful. He quickly withdrew his consciousness and said, "Let the blood-eating monster insect go in and take a look." Yuan, "Well, you can call yours over." The two quickly recalled the blood-devouring monster insects and let them enter the cave. Then they entered the space and paid attention to the entrance of the cave. There was no movement after half a day, and the two of them had to come out of the space. After coming out, Mujukan looked again with his consciousness. After a long time, he said doubtfully, "Wanur, the aura is gone. Let's go in and see what's going on." "Good." Yuan was also very surprised. The aura disappeared. Why didn't the blood-eating monster insects come out? The two of them immediately entered the cave, with Mujukan walking in front. The cave is dark and humid, the poisonous gas is particularly strong, and the ground is covered with dark green vines and weeds. There are no poisonous insects or poisonous beasts. At the beginning, the entrance of the cave was small, but as we walked, it got bigger and bigger, and there were forks. "Which cave should I go through?" Yuan asked. The poisonous gas inside was so strong that he couldn't even sense the breath of the blood-eating demonic insects. Mujukan shook his head, "Let's go as we please." He led Yuan through the larger hole on the left. As the cave went downwards, the poisonous gas became thicker and thicker, and the two of them began to feel that their breathing was not smooth. Suddenly, a roar of a monster seemed to come from the ground. "Wanur, listen, it should be this hole." The blood-eating monster must have got it. Listening to the sound, there was a feeling of unbearable pain. Yuan nodded, and the two of them sped up. I don't know how long I walked, but at the end of the cave there was a huge dragon covered in black. It has grown dragon horns and has 4 protrusions on its abdomen, which are where it will grow legs. "Save me!" Suddenly the black dragon came out with a weak voice. Save. The two of them took another look, and sure enough, it was covered in blood-eating demonic insects. Why should we save you? You are not my spiritual pet. Mujukin shook his head. He didn't want a poisonous dragon, but he could give it to Dabeo. However, the poisonous dragon was not weak, but he didn't know if it would be bad if placed in Yuan's space. He took a look at Yuan. Yuan was touching her chin. She was about to attack the poisonous dragon. When she saw the questioning look from Mujukin, she nodded immediately. No matter how powerful the people or monsters in this world are, they cannot escape as long as they enter her space, which makes her feel relieved. This poisonous dragon has good blood and good strength. It will be a big help in the future. Mujukin accepted Yuan's message and said, I can save you. Just let go of your resistance. Don't resist and we will take you away. A hint of gratitude flashed in the black dragon's eyes, and it nodded. The two of them slowly walked towards the poisonous dragon, and at the same time, they stopped the blood-eating demonic insects from devouring them, but did not let them come out. The two of them stopped when they were about 10 feet away. Yuan looked around the cave and found nothing out of the ordinary, then she wrapped the black dragon with her consciousness. As expected, the black dragon showed no resistance, so Yuan sped up. Come in, Yuan shouted softly, and the large black dragon entered the space with her. The sudden change happened at this moment. At the moment when Yuan brought the black dragon into the space, the black dragon's tail curled up and flicked Mujukin, who was standing next to her. Mujukin Yuan saw Mujukin being thrown out and seemed to be thrown to the stone wall and disappeared. She shouted, but she had already entered the space. In the space, the black dragon was imprisoned by Yuan, and she quickly escaped from the space. End of this chapter. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 460. Chapter 460, Incomplete Passage. When Yuan stepped out of the space, Mujukin's figure was nowhere to be seen. The cave was bare. Yuan was furious. She stepped into the space and stood in front of the black dragon. She asked angrily, Tell me, where did you take my husband? Otherwise, you will die immediately without a burial place. The black dragon was lying on the ground, with disdain in his eyes. How could it be swallowed up by such a disgusting thing? It was these two humans, not them. How could it suffer such pain and be so insulted? It would drag them to death even if it wanted to, but it didn't expect that this human female cultivator would have such a precious space, otherwise the two of them would disappear together. You won't tell me, right? Okay, blood-eating monster, swallow it up for me. Yuan was so angry that her teeth itched. The blood-eating demonic insects heard the order and happily started to devour it again. Ang ang ang. The black dragon was rolling on the ground in pain and kept wailing. Human, I won't know how to say it even if I die, ha ha ha, up and down. Yuan listened to the dragon's roar, and realized that the bloodline of this black dragon was indeed advanced, and it would not take long for it to transform into a real dragon. What a pity, this guy has such a vicious mind. Stop, suddenly Yuan asked the blood-devouring demonic insects to stop. The black dragon didn't say anything, so she made a contract with it. It didn't dare to say anything. Yuan was so angry that she refused to say anything. She contracted it, how dare she not say anything? Sure enough, as soon as Yuan shouted stop, the blood-eating demonic insects stopped, and the black dragon also stopped rolling, with two eyes staring at her with hatred. Yuan didn't care whether it was hostile or not. She quickly forced out a drop of her heart's blood, and flew into the black dragon's sea of consciousness with a flick of her finger. She quickly hit the black dragon's sea of consciousness with a spell. I saw that the drop of Yuan's heart blood was split into two parts. After a flash of light, half stayed in the black dragon's sea of consciousness, and the other half flew back to Yuan's sea of consciousness. When the two halves of their hearts are immersed in the sea of consciousness, one person and one dragon immediately establish a connection, just like there is an invisible thread that tightly ties one person and one dragon together. After the black dragon's black eyes were confused for a short time, the hatred in his eyes was no longer there, replaced by obedience. Master Black Dragon's weak voice sounded. Yuan waved her hand, and all the blood-devouring demonic insects left the black dragon's body. As soon as the blood-eating demonic insect left the body, a tall man in black lay on the ground, his breath was dying. Yuan snorted heavily and threw him a bottle of 5th-level healing pill. Black Jiao reached for the medicine bottle with trembling hands, opened it with force, and poured the entire bottle of pills into his mouth. After the Black Jiao's breath stabilized, Yuan asked the Black Jiao coldly, "Now you can tell me, where did you take my husband?" Black Jiao stood up and sat down. He looked at the human female cultivator in front of him with murderous intent. Oh, no, his master. He thought he was 3 levels higher than her in strength, so he was afraid of backlash when she made a contract with him. Who knows what kind of contract method she used, but he didn't even have the slightest sense of resistance. He was contracted obediently, but he would never be able to get backlash. That kind of thing. Black Jiao shook his head, "Master, I don't know where I will go. It is a space passage with incomplete space." Bang, Yuan kicked him away. Damn it, a broken space channel. She was not an array mage and she knew what a broken channel was. It is the remaining teleportation channel of the abandoned teleportation array. If a person accidentally enters it, he will not be cut to death by the fierce space wind, and he does not know where he will fall. The world of Lingxiu is so big, where can I find it? Yuan hated herself so much right now. What was she doing with this evil dragon? Yuan blamed herself so much that she wanted to commit suicide. She stepped out of the space and walked towards the stone wall. Now the stone wall was just a piece of stone, and there was no trace of the incomplete passage. The incomplete passage is inherently fragile, and even if it is hit by a strong collision, it will not be completely destroyed. Yuan's heart ached so much that she couldn't breathe when she thought of Mujukan's life and death. She blamed herself and regretted, why did she come to this place? Yuan huddled in the corner, her tears like a flood that burst a floodgate. On the other side, Mujukan woke up, his body ached and his head hurt. He didn't care where he was. He endured the pain and took out a healing pill from the storage ring, swallowed it, and began to heal slowly. After the injury healed, he slowly looked around the place. This was a basement, and there was a teleportation array next to it. He knew that he was thrown into a passage by the Black Dragon. That passage turned out to be an incomplete transmission passage. The overbearing space wind almost sliced him into pieces. Just when he was about to despair, he suddenly discovered that there was an intact passage next to the broken passage. The formation inheritance included a method on how to break through the passage of the teleportation formation. He used up his last spiritual energy to break through a little passage and entered this intact passage. He fainted as soon as he entered, and when he woke up, he was next to the teleportation array. Mujukan took a closer look at the teleportation array, and found that it was only a one-way teleportation array, and could only go back and forth but not back. Mujukan was dizzy and had no way to go back. He had to completely recover from his injuries on the spot before walking out of the stone room. There was a stone door in the stone room. Mujukan used his spiritual power to push it open. He quickly ducked out of the stone door. As soon as he came out, the stone door closed automatically. Well, where have I come from? Mujukan breathed the air outside. This was spiritual energy. The air he just breathed into his body made his body feel tingling. Mujukan was a little confused. Could it be that he had come to the fairy world? He walked quickly to the stone stairs and climbed up quickly. At the end was an inconspicuous cave surrounded by vines, and it seemed to be in a mountain forest. Mujukin's consciousness was exhausted before and has not recovered yet, but he can feel that there is danger in this mountain forest. As a last resort, he had to retreat to the door of the underground stone chamber, where he set up a concealment and isolation formation, and then meditated to regain his consciousness. One day passed. After Mujukin recovered his consciousness, he withdrew the formation and walked up. When he arrived at the door, he used some of his consciousness to check carefully. This sight made his jaw drop. The forest was full of monsters with powerful auras. He did not dare to move, so he quietly retreated and sat down, thinking about what to do. Such a dilemma made him not even think about getting angry. He still doesn't know how Warner is doing now. He looked at the entrance of the cave and waited to see if anyone was passing by. Yuan has been sitting there in the cave for a year at this time. She hoped that a miracle would happen and that the incomplete passage would appear again, but unfortunately it did not. On this day, Yuan's telepathic message came to mind again. It was from Liang Bao to report that he was safe. Yuan Ke slowly got up and walked out of the cave. Mujukin is gone. She still has 2 sons. 10 days later, Yuan left the swamp and headed towards Nangsu. Always look for it in the Lingxu world, just in case he can't receive the message somewhere. Although this idea is a bit self-deceptive, there is always hope. End of this chapter.